calling all millionaires and future millionaires. Welcome to Go to Millions. I'm Ari Murray. Nice to meet you. This is go-to-market strategy for the big dogs. Woof, woof. Sit back, relax, or go get your steps, or add stuff to your cart. That's 100% what I recommend you do. Whatever you do, please pay close attention to these million-dollar ideas from the biggest and baddest operators and founders in the entire world. Off we go.
Hi, how are you? This is Ari. I hope you're having a beautiful day. When we filmed this virtual event, I got to sit down with my very good friend Neal, who's an Enterprise Team Lead at Tapcart, which is a great mobile app. You will hear all about them, all about Neal, all about being mobile first, about my tech stack, and about meeting your customers where they are, which is kind of the only way to live in 2023. It's the only way to make it. Off we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you really afford not to be a mobile-first brand in 2023? Now you can easily build an app for your Shopify store in days with Tapcart and give your customers what they need. Go to tapcart.com/millions and unlock your brand's potential. Hello. How is everybody doing? Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Ari. It's great to see you. And I hope you're staying warm. In Austin, it's freezing. It's frozen. Everyone's freaking out. So wherever you are, I hope you have a blanket. But I'm very grateful you're here. I'd like to thank Tapcart for allowing us to be here today, my favorite mobile app in the world. Speaking of Tapcart, I want to introduce you to my friend Neal, who will be joining us here today. We're going to talk all things mobile first and e-com and all of the above. It's going to be great. So Neal, come on out. Let's have a party. Hi.
Hey, Ari. Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. Well, let's kick it right off. How did you become interested in e-com? What is your story? How did you get here?
Yeah. So my start in the e-com space was, back 2014, 2015, started building a brand on Shopify. This is back when Shopify was, had maybe 30 apps in their entire ecosystem.
Right.
And it was just in its nascency. And so, that's where, I got my first start really feeling what it meant to grow a brand really from your basement, right? And really understand what it took to market a brand, what it took to scale, what it meant to manage inventory, manage the balance sheet of a startup, and in a process where we didn't really know anything about what it meant to grow a brand, but learning as we go and using the tools that Shopify gave us. So that's, where I got my initial start and familiarity with the e-commerce space. But then it really scaled into the last 4 years is where I focused on serving other Shopify brands, right? So when it comes to really getting an understanding for what makes brands tick, what makes them succeed, where are the pitfalls, where I can solve for, I work as an enterprise team lead here on the Tapcart team, where we are learning what are those challenges, looking to solve them with a mobile app, but then also over the course of that process, really learning about other ways we can support a merchant and helping them scale, over the course of their journey.
I love that. I think you were working in e-com before I knew what that was. And so I love that. I feel like to have been brand side or to have been in the actual ecosystem for that long and then to come now and to help people grow themselves is a really cool way of looking at it. And it's probably taught you kind of what you needed to know to actually be able to give really great advice. Speaking of advice, what are some key trends you see across all of the brands you work with as you help them to scale?
Right now, more than ever, the focus has been on margins, right? So when you think of a challenging economic climate, when you think of inflationary pressures where the consumer is more choosy with those dollars than they spend,
Right.
that they spend more than ever before, those headwinds crossing with a brand that's trying to, scale, all of these things, it comes down to margins. And so in the past, it was kind of growth at all costs in the go-go days of, 2020, where, customer acquisition was, uber cheap and it was really easy to scale a brand. Now the focus and the trend is, hey, how do we make our unit economics make sense? How do we make it on a path to profitability? How do we if we know we're generating maybe a break-even sale on that first purchase with the customer, how do we scale that relationship with the customer to increase the longevity and relationship with that customer, right? So that's the trend I'm seeing more than ever before, is the unit economics combined with the change in what it means to build a community around a brand as well.
It's fun, obviously, in a time where everything's booming to be a marketer because you have the winds at your back. But it's kind of, this is the time where the best brands will live and rise from the ashes. And then how can you grow, not at all costs, but responsibly? And that is the question of the year, I'd say. So I think that's definitely the trend to focus on, and we do it well. How does Tapcart help with that, and how does it help brands unlock more revenue, especially after that first sale?
So when you think about what are the major challenges with a merchant in the first place is, driving that traffic to the website, right? So getting that attention, the eyeballs from their community and the audience, that's more challenging than ever right now, right? Especially with the fact that, if you think of Shopify, as awesome as it was to provide a platform for so many brands to open up virtually overnight, at the same time, it was a double-edged sword in that now there's so many competing brands and made it, the entrance into the market, the barrier to entry was so low that now you're competing against so many more brands than you could have fathomed, right? And so when you think about when a customer is coming to a brand's website and are interested in some kind of purchase, the real challenge is getting that customer to come back again. And so really it comes down to retention, right? How do you drive that customer to come back again? Because it was so costly to acquire that customer in the first place. So the goal is to extract as much from that relationship as possible, where the point that the customer feels like they're getting a tremendous amount of value, an amazing experience, but then at the same time, the brand is seeing the unit economic benefit from that. And so when you think of an app, where it falls in that funnel, it really comes down to the retention play, right? And so when you think of retention, individuals would often think, okay, retention means emails and SMS, right? Which it could, right? Those are more of retention messaging tools, right?
Right.
But when you think of overall retention, nothing beats retention than an amazing product, an amazing experience, right? And nothing beats retention than actually having a really solid community. And so how do you bring all of that under one umbrella is what we do when we launch an app for a brand, right? We're focused on harnessing and focusing on kind of that top 30% of the customer audience for that brand and giving them an amazing experience that drives that deeper brand loyalty, deeper brand connection. Right?
And I think too, when you said email and SMS are retention tactics, or they're ways to get your message out, but those are just ways to bring someone back into your home base. And if your home base is broken, or if it's just not what it has to be, then you've spent the money, the time, the effort, they've taken that click or that button, and then they're back kind of where you're fighting still against the rest of the internet versus on your actual own territory, which is what happens when you're within an app. You can be within a world. And so I think that's the future of e-com. And I think it can happen at brands even that aren't household names yet. I think if you can own that territory, you can be light years ahead now. And then over time, it just compounds so crazy. So what does it mean to be mobile first these days? Because that's a hot tool, hot topic, but mobile first, what is it to you?
Yeah. So when you think of mobile first from, let's say 5 years ago, it was kind of oh, I have a mobile responsive website, right? And now and I send them some emails and some text messages. So I'm mobile friendly, right? And that was about 5 years ago. And the most surprising thing that I see is that there's still a similar mentality for even some of the larger brands I see out there, that what they've done to truly reshape what it means to be mobile is kind of been slow to react, right? And so to me, being mobile first is essentially meeting customers where they are. And that answer is different for every customer. So it's not a one-dimensional oh, I'm going to send an email, or I'm going to send a text message, or I'm going to launch this Facebook campaign. It's really a function of having this holistic, well-rounded approach that's meeting their customer where they are and giving them the best possible experience that they can have on their device, right? That's truly what mobile first means, is giving the best possible experience on that device. And so when you think of have you ever visited Amazon.com, www.amazon.com from your mobile browser? And
yeah, it's so cute.
Oh God, not cute. That's
Yeah.
the best way to describe it. Like it almost makes you want to pull your hair out, right?
Right.
And so that's where Amazon, you see all of their traffic coming through the app. It's because that's where you can deliver that best possible experience that's truly native, built for the device. And so when you think of mobile first, it's really hard for a brand to say we are mobile first when you don't have kind of that coveted piece of real estate on someone's device and own it, right? Where that you can truly control that experience. So it's really having a controlled experience, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, controlled environment where you can understand like what is the best possible experience to give my most loyal audience, and then doing it in a place where their eyeballs are. And that's the home screen of their device.
Do you want to unlock more revenue with a solid retention tool? Of course you do. And look, I've got a great deal for you from Tapcart. They'll help you prioritize that all-important mobile experience with an insanely good app for your Shopify store. They'll help you build community and boost retention. You need to prioritize an insanely awesome mobile experience for your brand. It will seriously help you build community and boost retention. What do you have to do? Just visit tapcart.com/millions and get 1 month free. It's that easy. That's crazy because I've never thought of it on the Amazon way, but it's perfect because I have the Amazon app. I spend all my money on Amazon. It's disgusting, but my sister shared something to me, like a deodorant she wanted me to buy or something, and I clicked it, but I was on my laptop and I wasn't even logged in to Amazon on my desktop. And not only that, I had no idea what my Amazon password was because I've just used the mobile app for like 4 years and I've never been logged out. And so I had to then ask my husband, what's the password, this whole thing, because I just was not used to playing in that way with Amazon. I was used to just going home, going to my little handy app where everything's perfect, going to my recent orders, everything's so logged in and easy. And for me to then have to like find this login, I didn't even realize it was because it wasn't on my app, but it's just so easy to be on the app that you forget that there's a whole other way of shopping this brand. And I think that's the exact way it works with Tapcart. It's like as if your brand could afford to build an app like Amazon.
You said it exactly right. The most like gleaming fact or data point in this whole story is the last 3 months say that, out of all the shopping or out of all the traffic to these brands, 84% of that traffic happened on a mobile device.
Right.
But then if you go look at the actual transactions, only 57% of transactions happened on mobile. So the question is, what happened to that 24% differential, right? The fact that all the traffic's there, but only 57% of transactions are happening on mobile is saying that there was something about the brand's mobile experience that didn't give the customer enough confidence to transact right? There was something that gave them pause. And a classic example is what you just highlighted, like, oh my goodness, I forgot my login and password, or, oh, I have to go reach for my credit card now.
Right. I have to get up.
But with Amazon, you never have to do that. You never have to sign in ever again. You never have to re-input your payment details. And same thing with an app. You have the ability to say, hey, stay logged in forever, remove the friction points that happen to that sale, right? That's where, like, instead of asking someone to say, I need the customer to do 14 things, input form fields, log in, all of these things in order to check out. Now you can bring it down to 2 clicks, removing those friction points, right? But again, that stat shows that like mobile first hasn't evolved in its definition yet.
No, I think that's exactly right. And the getting out the credit card part, someone just wrote that, Courtney, I'm the same as you. If I have to get up, or if they don't have Shop Pay or don't have an app, or if it involves even me having to think about where my credit card is, then in that walk to my card, I've convinced myself that I don't need it, or I get distracted, or I'll finally do it and then I'm annoyed and I'm buying something and it's not fun. And that's why I think sometimes even two people decide not to buy online, because they want their experience to be fun. But it can't be fun if you're like huffing and puffing from getting your credit card and you just have to go through unnecessary hoops. So that Amazon example, I think that's what's going to keep me up tonight. So really well said. And then in terms of meeting customers where they are, we know they're on their phones, but why is it easier for a customer to shop on an app on their phone than just in a mobile browser?
When you think about like why it's so valuable to have that icon on the home screen, is that like the brand is actually able to capitalize on 2 types of biases that exist in the customer's mind, right? There's the conscious bias where they're actively thinking about the brand, And so now they have the easiest possible way to click in by living on that home screen, transact in the most frictionless way possible, right? So that's the conscious, like the obvious bias here, obvious thought process here. But then the much more powerful part speaks more to the retention mechanism. In other words, the customer is not thinking about that brand at that moment. They're not thinking about shopping. They're not thinking about that category or that they need to get the next item, but they are staring at their mobile device for 6.5 hours a day, scrolling left and right across that brand's icon all day long. And if they love that brand, that constant subconscious reminder is what's going to promote so many more clicks into that brand that are even possible on web, right? So when you think of living on the home screen versus living inside a browser or living inside an email inbox or a text message thread, right? Here, you're living where their eyes are and where they're scrolling across your icon all day long. And I think that's the power of the app. That's what drives so much of a retention power to it, that it's not just about a retention message, but it's about a retaining experience that you're able to give the customer.
100%. And I think the 6.5 hours was generous. My screen time is like around 8. I don't know how I pulled that off, but it's my truth. Working on it. And then everyone has a business hill that they would die on. What is yours?
I feel like there is this constant battle between marketers where they take two sides on the is acquisition important or is retention important? For me, there's a little bit of a confusion on why it has to be one or the other. Mm-hmm. And so, when you think about the role that each of them play, without customer acquisition, how can you possibly grow that customer base and audience and scale? But at the same time, if you don't have a retention strategy in place, you essentially have a leaky bucket. Right? You have a customer that bought and may never come back again. And it's the high margin transactions that happen on the repeat purchases that are going to drive a brand on a path to profitability. And so, dying on a hill, and what is like that principle is that like you can't have an acquisition strategy that's sustainable without a retention strategy in place. And retention means a lot more than just sending an email or sending a text message. It's more about actually creating an experience that focuses on the customer, focuses on CX, focuses on putting what the customer wants, giving them a sense of community that's just going to drive longevity with the brand and, most importantly, profitability with each one of those customers and higher LTV.
I love that. I agree with you. Speaking of community, what is your favorite type of community and why is community important for D2C in general, and even just like the lifetime value retention, all of it?
The single greatest marketing tool you could ever have is your own customers. Customers give us so much. They give us the brand ambassadorship that that so many brands crave. But at the same time, they give us so much insight into actual data and like what a brand should be doing just by learning that from their own customers. And so, the brands that are building the best community are kind of doing it from two ends. On one hand, they build an amazing community or message that resonates with a very specific audience. Brands that are not trying to appeal to anyone and everything, but are focusing on a specific niche, a specific ICP, a persona, and have a really strong brand message that resonates with that persona. And then secondarily, creating in a community environment that once that customer is in the funnel of that brand, how can you then give them an experience that makes them that much more excited over time, right? Because now it's not a remarketing to that customer. It's actually making, having that customer turn into a marketing tool for the brand as well, right? And I think that's where the power lies. So when you see the success of, like the Gymsharks of the world or Feastables, these are the brands that have been able to build this amazing community of super users, super customers, and really drive the success of the brand.
I love that. And I think when a brand treats you well, it makes you want to go tell a friend, which is our job well done for us. Because if they tell one friend or 3 friends, then they've paid for themselves in that first text message. So I love that. And retention is the hot topic of the day and of the year. And we all agree it's everything. How do you think about retention and how does it tie into the LTV of, obviously you want to retain that customer, but you also want to maximize how long you can keep them?
Retention can be looked at from kind of a couple of facets, right? First, if you think of the top of the funnel, right? Just traffic to the website. If you were to look at a brand's traffic and say, okay, it had a certain number of monthly sessions that were coming from a certain number of unique users. And if you were to divide the number of sessions by the number of users, I'd be willing to bet for most brands, it's somewhere around 1.2, 1.3 sessions per user. In other words, the average visitor to the website is only visiting about 1.2 times per month. And so how are you supposed to drive a true retention strategy if the traffic to the brand is not even, they're not even making a repeat visit inside that same month, right? It's almost impossible at that point. So that's where you talk about, okay, so they download an app. And now what happens is simply by living on their home screen, you're able to drive that same user who downloaded the app is now going to visit the brand 4, 5, 6 times per month. This is where you take that traffic piece and then combine it with the fact that like, okay, now there's a higher traffic to the brand and the experience is more immersive. An app can be anything you want it to be. It can develop any type of community that you want it to be and cater to your specific user. So instead of a website that is basically targeting anyone and everyone who's willing to buy, you're able to like curate the most loyal base and give them something that they deserve, that they're asking for, and allow them to kind of end up organically purchasing more because they're given this unique experience that they couldn't get anywhere else. So when you think about LTV, that's where it comes into play. So when you think, when an app, a user that downloads the app will often end up spending about triple what that same exact user was previously on the website. And that simply is a function of, number one, visiting the brand more frequently than ever before by living on the home screen and seeing the push notifications. And then on the flip side, having an experience that's just going to convert higher, better experience, higher AOVs, higher conversion rates as an audience. And as a result, you see higher LTVs over the course of that customer lifetime.
What brands do you think do mobile first really well? Like specifically name names.
LSKD. LSKD has absolutely crushed the game when it comes to having a truly mobile first strategy. I remember, just this past Black Friday, they shut down their website, they shut down their app just to build up this buzz and momentum ahead of Black Friday. And once they did, over 50% of their total company sales ended up happening inside the app. They ended up shooting to number 1 on the Australian App Store above Amazon, right?
Wow.
So like when you think of a brand that is focusing on truly building a mobile first strategy, they are like a textbook example of a brand that's done it extremely well. But then more importantly, it's about the community that they built around it as well, right? The community is a mobile first community. It's not just about living on social. It's not just about being able to, send messages that resonate, although those are important, right? It's about giving that customer a really, really unique experience that they couldn't get anywhere else. So LSKD is an amazing example of that.
I love that because they also took a risk to go like dark or to black out their site. And if they've never done that before and they have an app and they have all these other systems that they have to manage, it's kind of scary when you turn it back on and you just hope that it worked and it was a good strategy. And then for it to have worked and for people to have missed them when they were quiet is a really good sign. And to beat Amazon in the App Store, that's the dream of every brand. Like you really can't really ask for more than that. Okay, my last question to you. Tell everyone kind of where they could find you next and what you're up to, what you're focused on, and just kind of take the stage to give it your little pitch.
Yeah, well, everyone knows that you can find me on LinkedIn. That's pretty much where I live. But at the same time, you can also find us at tapcart.com. One of the most powerful things or most exciting parts about my job is getting to like meet with the most exciting brands on the planet. Like when you think of like any roles that someone could have, you are conversing and interacting with some of the coolest people on the face of the planet.
Right.
And so like when you think about having the opportunity to learn what their challenges are, learn what's working and what's not, and how we can optimize and how it could potentially, work to solve them. That's what we do at Tapcart. It's a very all hands on deck type of environment where once a brand enters the Tapcart ecosystem, everybody jumps in to see how, hey, how can we enable this particular brand's success? How can we elevate them? And we've done that in such a repeatable fashion. So it's just a really amazing place to be and be surrounded by so many amazing brands. So with that said, yeah, you can find us tapcart.com or on LinkedIn.
I love that. And tapcart.com is a great place to be. And you should download their app for your store and make a new app. And you can literally get started in 2 weeks. It's crazy. Well, we are sadly out of time. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me, Neal. It was so fun to hang out. And I hope you stay warm. And we will see you guys very soon and talk to Tapcart. That's the message of the day. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.
Thanks, Ari. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you had a lot of fun. Neal is amazing. He's super smart. And I think there's a reason he's in sales. He's super charming. I am grateful that you gave us some time from you today. From this episode, I think you can learn just how significant the difference is between the brands that say they're mobile first and the brands that put the tech in place to do it. And I think that the results speak for themselves. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope to see you again soon. And keep my number. Hopefully we talk again. See ya. Thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure talking with you. Keep up to date with Go to Millions by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And if you learned something with us here today, tell a friend for me, will ya? Thank you again, and let's chat soon. Bye!